Today we will be analyzing and comparing the relationship between the structure and function of the animal tissues, specifically focusing on the four basic types of animal tissues. I will first explain what are the four basic types of tissues and then the relationship between the structure and function of these tissues. In order for you to analyze and compare, you'll need to know the difference between these two terms. A brief explanation would be, when you analyze something, it's when you break down the concepts into smaller parts in order for you to understand. When you compare something, that is when you look at two or more objects to identify the differences or similarities. Firstly, we would need to know what is a tissue. A tissue is a group of specialized distinct cells that carry out a common function. The animal tissue consists out of four basic types that are also found in the human body. It is epithelial, connective, muscle, and nerve tissue. The nerve tissue can also be called nervous tissue. The epithelial tissue is known for its protection function because it forms the outer layer of the body and lines the body cavity. A few general functions include excretion of waste, secretion, and absorption. The epithelial tissue consists out of a single layer of cells, but in some cases there may be more than one cells. The epithelial tissue has different types which are based on the number of layers it forms and which makes up these layers. The cells are usually firmly, tightly packed together, and the following are the different types of epithelial tissues: simple, stratified, squamous, cuboidal, and columnar, and then ciliated epithelial. The epithelial cells can be arranged in multiple layers. Connective tissues help protect and support the organs and limbs by binding structures together and forming a framework. The connective tissues help repair damaged tissue and plays an important role in transporting substances. However, it can be used to join or separate organs depending on the location in the body. There are three types of connective tissue: areola, which is also known as loose connective tissue, dense, and cartilage. Each of these tissues has different function. However, all of them consist of cells, extracellular matrix, and fiber like collagen. Each connective tissue has an intracellular matrix which differs from one another. The muscle tissue is responsible for different forms of movement, such as voluntary and involuntary, because it is made up of cells that has a special ability to contract, which results in the movement of the body. The muscle tissues are supplied with blood vessels and are highly cellular. When a tissue of a cell is highly cellular, that means the cells are tightly packed to each other and have very little spaces between them. The cells are slender, long, and these are called muscle fibers. The muscle fibers are arranged in layers or bundles which are surrounded by the connective tissue. In the muscle tissue, there is contractile proteins called actins and myosins. There are three types of muscle tissue: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Cardiac is found in the heart, smooth is your normal muscles, and your skeletal is connected to the bones of your body. The nervous tissues are responsible for transporting chemical and electrical impulses and signals from the brain to the central nervous system and to the periphery nervous system. It can be found in the brain, spinal cord, and of course the nerves. The nerve tissue consists of nerve cells that contain axons and dendrites. These nerve cells are called neurons. Three types of neurons that are found: sensory, motor, and interneurons. The structure of the nerve tissue consists of a cell body, axon, and dendrites. The cell body is responsible for the overall function of the neuron or the nervous tissue, and while the dendrites are extensions that carry impulses to the cell, and the axon carries impulses away from the cell. Therefore, the function of the axon is to send impulses while the dendrite receives impulses. Therefore, it's important to note that the relationship between the structure and the function depend on one another and work together. If the structure of the animal tissue is damaged, it won't be able to perform its function. Therefore, they are dependent on one another. The animal tissues, to recap, consist of epithelial, muscle, connective, and nerve tissue, which can also be called the nervous tissue. All of them are found throughout the body and it plays an important role. Thank you.